Welcome to a live talk with Becky Chernek, and I am so excited. I get to have Tracy Myers here with me, and boy, let me tell you, he has an amazing background. He's a favorite among independent car dealers here in the Carolinas, not to mention probably nationwide. And we're also going to be talking about his upcoming event. I'm so super excited about that as well. It is the Unfair Advantage Automotive Mastermind. And I got to tell you, dealers are signing up like crazy right now. And it is built up so much momentum. I am super excited about it. And the reason probably why is obviously Tracy Myers, but I believe because we've got so many, he's got so many educators participating in the event. And let's face it, dealers are wanting to get back to the basics, the fundamentals of really helping to sell more cars and maximizing those profits. So you got to be there. Anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll get Tracy to talk more about that. And also, as I mentioned, I get a chance to participate, but Agora Data is a proud sponsor and they're a platinum sponsor. And so you've got to take advantage of the promo code Dealer Profit. So if you haven't made that decision to join to register for this event, make sure you do and take advantage of that promo code Dealer Profit. Okay, so here we are. We're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you like what we're talking about, would you do me a favor and just share and like? We want to get the word out. Now, for those folks that don't know who I am, and not that you wouldn't know who I am, for dealers and viewers, I've been providing the very best in finance and insurance training for automotive dealers for many, many years, significantly impacting profits for our dealers with thousands of references. And I got to tell you, from the time the customer touches down on that dealership website, online, offline, from the time that the customer comes into the dealership, working with sales, streamlining that process, to working at the desk, let's face it, I mean, the action starts up at the desk, and working with those desk managers to finalizing the transaction in the F&I office with an F&I manager and or with that hybrid sales associate, as well as a corporate F&I platform director for a large automotive group here in the Carolinas, as well as in Florida. But recently went on board with Agora because I believe in the vision of what they're doing to significantly impacting F&I profits for dealers, whether it be independent or franchise dealers. Steve Burke, who is the founder, he has this tagline that says, put the F dollars back into F&I. And frankly, what they're doing is they're empowering auto dealers to be or have the same strength or have the strength of a finance company. So exciting stuff. We might get into some of it, but I got to tell you, if you have some questions on this, hit me up over at the event. I'll be there. Can't wait to hear some of your questions, and let's sit down and talk about it. But right now, we have Tracy Myers, and I got to tell you, he's got a phenomenal background that he'll share with us. And you know, I read one of his posts, I think just yesterday, and Tracy was talking about rags to riches. How did he get there? So let's start there. Tracy Myers, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me. And like we were talking earlier before we went live, we've known each other virtually for a very long time because we were connecting on the old, I hate to say old, but a long time ago, we were connecting on the original dealer platforms when we were so hungry to connect with like-minded people in the automotive space. And that's just branched out to Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other platforms. And here we are.
Yeah, I've been stalking you for years, Tracy, that's for sure. And so it was exciting to be able to bring you on because that's so important for me, because I do know your legend and your career and what you have been able to do for the industry. So this is super exciting for me to really be able to have the time to bring you on and talk about how how you went from rags to riches. I mean, it's a really good story. It's important. I mean, not about me, but I understand the struggle, the challenges that we go through to get to that point in our career that we can look back and say, what a journey it's been.
You're right. And that overnight success story, it often takes a generation or two. And in our case, my great grandfather started the very first Frank Myers store 103 years ago this year. And on my dad's side of the family, they're mostly entrepreneurs. I can't think of anyone that didn't start their own business at some point or another. And of course, now I'm here in automotive, and it seems like I've been here forever, and I have been here my entire adult life. But my dad had actually bought this dealership from him in 2006. And that's kind of crazy to even think about how long that's been now. And here we are, my 22-year-old son is working here now. And look, it's like my dad told me, and we can get into some of this a little later. He said, look, if this is what you want to do, then you can do it. But if you don't want to do it, I don't want to force you into it. And I share that with my son daily. And I think that's important, especially in family-owned businesses, that they don't feel like they have to, because we feel as parents like it's their destiny, because it may not be their destiny and they're doing it for us. It has to be for them. And I credit my dad for always making it known that he wanted me here. He liked having me here. He would teach me to be the best that I could be if I wanted to do it. And if I didn't, that was okay too. And he would still support my journey.
I love that story because, my dad was a dealer as well. And he worked his way up the ladder. And from working at Chesapeake, running Chesapeake Cadillac in Baltimore, Maryland, that's where I'm from. And then later having his own store. And I was like the sibling that likely wouldn't be in the car business.
Yeah, that's
and
me.
I proved them all wrong.
Same.
Like, what are you doing in the car business?
Mhm.
You're a female. Well, go figure. I was the only sibling that stayed in the car business.
Really?
So
That's great.
just never say
Yeah.
never. Right,
Yeah,
right. It's just like they didn't want anything to do with it. I'm like, I love this stuff. This is great.
Yeah.
What a great way to earn a living and have
Well,
fun doing it.
there were times in my life, he even said, when I was younger, of course, I became older, and he could see that I was looking for a way, because when we're younger, we don't know anything about anything. And as obvious as that sounds, we really don't. I'm talking 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. We don't know what we like. We don't know what we dislike. We don't know anything. So at that point, he would even say things like, I don't think the car business is for you. You're not outspoken enough. You're a little bit too nice, because the car business was entirely different, right? In the late 80s. Shoot, it was different 5 years ago, but especially that late 80s, 80s culture was entirely different than it became when I bought the store in 06. And I see where there's another shift, because there's another generation or two that's coming to our industry since then. And I know some of I'm going to sound like old man yelling at clouds here, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people in a certain generation, meaning mine or older, they think that the work ethic is not there for younger generations, that the passion is not there, the desire is not there. And I completely disagree with that. I think that it is there. I think we just need to find their why, exactly the same way that we had to find our why. Because my dad said the same things to me that I've often thought about maybe my son or some people in his age range, because he's 22. But they just, we all think different in different generations, just like music. My grandparents complained about my mom's music. My mom complained about my music, and I complained about my son's music. It's really no different, right, than in the way we think. So I can appreciate that. And I've got a very unique perspective because I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I consider myself a constant student, not just of automotive, but just in general, because when we're green, we're growing. When we're right, we're rotting. So
I thought I had all the answers too.
Sure. Yeah. We all do. Absolutely. So, but
I took it all, and it's just like, I'm going with this.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. We need that.
Get out of my way.
We need that bravado, right? We need that when we're at a certain age, but also when we get to another age or a different season in our careers and our lives, we need to realize that things aren't the same, and that's not a bad thing. It's just different. It just is. and we need to learn to adapt, or we're going to be the old crusty car vets that we're not growing, and we're selling 8 cars a month, and we're criticizing everybody that's younger than us, and that's not the way we used to do it, and telling war stories in the sales meetings, not from a training perspective, because I share stories of the good old days, right? But we need to learn to transform that and make it recognizable to the younger generation, and how the mistakes we made and the things we did right can benefit them, because then it just becomes war stories, and then we're the old guy or the old gal, and what we say is not important.
Never call me an old gal. No, I'm just.
Yeah.
But I
general,
get it.
right.
It's what's in it for me. The communication. What's in it for me? I hear what you're saying. What happened then? What's going on right now, and how does that affect me? And I think that's important. And you're right. We have to adapt. We have to be a lot more. We have to be flexible in what we're doing. We can't stay stagnant. Like this is the way it's always been. So that's what we're going to do to survive and thrive. It doesn't work like that. It is important, and I agree. It's like we all have to pivot. I've had to pivot my thinking and my approach to be on the edge, to be successful, and to be able to relate to others, and that is so important. We have to have the ability to pivot and also see the future for what it can be. And I know, like me, I get it. I have a lot of good stories. I really do, because I've worked with some of the most amazing folks in the industry, some of the most talented folks in the industry over the years. So let's face it, I've got a lot of great stories. But what do those stories do to impact what's going on today? And so I got to tell you, I viewed one of your podcasts that you had with Jim Rode, right,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife Michelle, and I really, and again, I always knew that you come from the heart. That's your thing. That is, if it's not something good, you don't want you don't want anything to do with it. And I have so much respect for that. I really do, because if it's not something that's good, why are we doing it, right? Why are we doing it? But you talk about your customers, and you talk about that every customer matters to you, that you have built an empire, you have built a company, a very successful company from scratch to where you are today. And that meant building that ecosystem, those customers you care about. Every deal matters. Prime customers, subprime, mid subprime, deep subprime. You have figured out a way to, hey, get the story from the customer. Let's figure this out, and let's make that customer, let's put that car deal together. Can you talk a little bit about that and your philosophy and how you got there? So, and the reason why I say this, Tracy, is because, me in the auto industry, I have been in dealerships all over the country. And, I see some things that just, they bother me,
Mm-hmm.
because dealers have gotten complacent, right? They get complacent, and they're not doing what they need to do to embrace every single customer and every single deal. I'm going to say this real quick, and then I'll let you go ahead and get into what you do and how you do it. But years back, I was in Memphis, and I love Memphis. I really did. Enjoyed working with those dealers. And I was at a big store, Ford store, and they sold maybe 700 cars a month. 100 of those deals were cash deals. And you know what? No one did anything with them. They just wrote the deal up and sent the customer happy on their way. And I'm like, can't we even present a service contract to them? I mean, something? But they didn't see the forest through the tree.
Right.
They thought, okay, we're already rocking it. We're already selling, these 700 cars. What's 100 that we're not presenting to maybe a service contract, or even trying to convert them over to financing? So that always stayed with me.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the advantage, and that's how you built your business on Every Deal Matters. How about it?
It is. And in the beginning, it was actually a necessity because as an independent, we don't have co-op money and we don't have the big ad spend. So when I was 19, 20 and working with my dad, and we're like trying to find a way to get a foothold in the marketplace, how do you compete with the new car dealers? Well, the answer is you really can't, as far as you're never going to on ad spend, right? When you're an independent. And we didn't want to be a buy here, pay here dealer at the time. We wanted to find some middle ground that would work for us. So we over time, we realized that subprime was a good place. It was just coming into its own in 93, 94, which was, I would consider that maybe that first big wave of subprime. We can go through, 100 lenders that were here and were big in that space and they're not around anymore. But so we found that little niche, and in that space, I realized how important those people were, and that there was really no difference in that customer and that 800 credit score and the 400 credit score overall. There's always a 1%er, and that's what we call them here in the store. Maybe it's not about life. They're just not good people. They're not going to pay their bills regardless, right? And that's unfortunate. But that leaves 99%. I'm a ridiculous glass half full optimist. So I think that by nature, most people are good deep down. But subprime customers, they want to pay their bills. They don't know how to pay their bills. Their parents were bad with money. So therefore, that was a taught trait. And they're also bad with money. So I believed, and maybe even to a naive level at that point in time, because I didn't know, but something told me that if we could educate the masses on how to start, to get to the starting point, and that could be us, then we could show them how to get to the finish line and not only build their credit, which sounds really cliche now, right? We're going to help you rebuild your credit. It's an ad slogan, but it wasn't then. We were looking for a way to grow, and along the way we stumbled and realized, hey, these aren't numbers. These are people. These aren't leads. These are opportunities, not just to educate, but to turn into customers for life. And that's what we did along the way. And along that journey, we said, okay, there's different segments of subprime. There's different levels of prime for us anyway. And there's different levels of buy here, pay here. And now lease here, pay here is what we're doing, because it's a really good opportunity, which we stumbled into that on purpose is a good way to put it, because, payments got so high in the buy here, pay here segment, right? Pushing $600, and you're looking for a household who is having difficulty paying their bills already. So that monthly payment goes from $450 a month to $550 a month to $650 a month, just because money costs more and cars cost more. And the last thing we want to do, sometimes we have to, but as an industry, you see that those terms keep extending. That only puts the customer in a worse situation long term. And yes, it's a long-term business for us anyway, but we said, look, there's got to be a way. So we looked at leasing, and since you're not making payments on the whole car, and you understand this as good as anyone, right? When you take that residual out, if it's 30%, then hey, now you're back to $10,000 or 13 instead of 16 or 17 or 18. Then their payments back to where it was a couple of years ago. So I'm like, that might be a good space to get into. So now what we like to do is you start them at lease here, pay here. If they've had some situations where they can't get any other type financing, we report that. We can move them up to a traditional subprime customer, and then 4, 5, 6 years later, as long as they do what they're supposed to do after they're educated, and we have to walk them through the entire process. 5, 6 years later, and then now they're a prime or near prime retail customer, and we can do all that here under one rooftop. And I think other stores can do that. It's just that I don't want to say they don't care, but I'm with you. I think they're really nearsighted in their approach, because, like I said, when we started, we had no choice. We had to find a way to get market, to grow, and that was our way to grow. And then we're like, these aren't numbers, and we don't call them leads in our store. That's part of our core culture. They are people. They're not numbers. They're opportunities. They're not leads.
I like that. That's the way it should be, right? That's exactly the way it should be. Every customer has a story, and you go after the story.
Oh, you have to go after the story, and we learned that in the 90s as well, because back then you actually got to talk to bankers. right? Or the person making the decision, the underwriter. So you would sell the story to the underwriter.
That's right.
Now that most things seem to be automated, I still think it helps to have that story because it helps structure a deal. Why do they need what they need? Is it a want or is it a need? I mean, that's always one of the first questions we asked our team members. Well, they want a Yukon. We just had this conversation this morning in training. Why do they want that Tahoe? Why do they want that Yukon? Why do they want that Suburban? Well, that's what they want. Well, is it a want or a need? Look, if you have the credit score and you have the money and you can afford the payment, wants are great. We all have them, and there's somebody that can service that, and we can service that as well. But as we know, if you buy a new Cadillac Escalade, right, and your neighbor sees the Escalade and they say, oh, I really like that Escalade, then they're going to go to the Cadillac dealer or maybe a used car dealer in town, and they're going to say, hey, I'm looking for an Escalade. Okay, well, are you financing? Yeah, I'm financing. Okay, so that's gonna be about $800-900 a month, right? At least. Oh, I can't do that. Thank you though, and then they leave. Well, unfortunately, I consult dealers across the country. That conversation happens at more dealerships than you think. That exact conversation, because the salesperson pre-qualifies because that person's a number. They're not a person. They don't understand the story. They don't understand the why. They didn't say I need an Escalade. They just like your Escalade, and they say I think I want one of those. They don't know that the payment's $900 a month or $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month. They just like the car, right? And the second or third or fourth, the dealer that gets the story and realizes that's the person with a story and what is the why, they may leave in a Chrysler Pacifica. If they have a family and they just need the room, and we have seen customers leave in a Nissan Versa when they realize, look, there's only 3 of us, and we didn't realize the Escalade gets 15 miles to the gallon, and we can't afford the gas anyway, and that Versa payment's gonna be $450. We would much rather have that anyway. Well, they've been to 4 or 5 dealerships, and they've been walked because all they got was that surface level information. We're just not collecting enough information and building relationships, and that's I think with technology the way it is and everything's right here in our pocket and we're not building real relationships with people, even if it's a short-term relationship, 15 minutes of fact finding and, that we used to do, right? That was sales 101 when we started. I think most of that's just gone out the window because the customer's in a hurry and we don't take the time to explain in this fast food nation we're in that, the drive-through nation, I want it right now, Amazon Prime me this car, right? I don't want to give you any information. I just want what I want. We have to explain to them why it's important and to their benefit. Like you said, what's in it for them, right? It's important that we slow this down, not so I can sell you, so you'll have the information you need to make this a good information day, right? Whether you buy here or not. And we've realized over the years that turns around more people, and they understand, oh, okay, that's why I want to do business here. Because I'm a firm believer that when people go online or they make the phone call, or even when they drive onto a dealership's lot, they're not looking for a place to buy. They're looking for the places they don't want to do business with first, and they mark them off the list.
Well, I remember back, in my consulting days when one particular dealer, just absolutely adored working with him. I just really did. And we just really connected and he got it. But in one store he acquired, it was a GMC store, a Buick store. And he says, Becky, don't expect much here. This is predominantly a cash store. We typically only have tier 1, tier 2 business here. And so we're not going to expect too much. So I went to the mall, come back, and and I'm like, kind of, not that I'm scoping the territory or that, but it just dawned on me, and I'm like, Bill, that makes no sense. What you said. There's tier 3, there's tier 4 business. It's just not happening at your store, and it's not because you have some sort of a radar around your store saying, hey, don't buy a car here if I have tier 3 and 4. It's coming from someplace. Mm-hmm. It's your culture. It's what you've bought into. So Bill at that point said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a write-up. I'm going to do a spiff. I'm going to come up with a $40 spiff for every deal this weekend, just a write-up, just to see what we have. And what do you think we found out? We found out that they had tier 3 and 4 business because salespeople doing what salespeople do. I don't need the headache of putting myself and time and effort into this if we don't have the support from the desk
Right.
and from F&I to be able to make this happen. And that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And especially COVID today. I mean, let's face it. They managed to broom a lot of customers, and because at the end of the day, they didn't do fact finding, they didn't do their homework,
Right.
they didn't have to, or even bother have to determine whether or not this customer could buy one car versus another. They were taking orders left and right, and they were sending this business down the street. I talked to a corporate F&I director, and he tells me, Becky, don't even talk 550 FICO score to my dealer. And I'm like, well, why not? Well, we don't have that type of customer. I'm like, what does that mean? Where's that type customer going to? Are they going to your competitor down the street, to someone who can determine the story to put that deal, that customer in the right car, and also develop that book of business, right? Keep that customer in their ecosystem, and and then sell them, their family members, another vehicle or a vehicle, and also that customer another vehicle down the road. But that to me is a veteran, a seasoned veteran, talented individual that understands how to work that book of business, that it's the culture of the store to determine and to be able to settle the deal down. Like you said, it's so fast paced today that we blow through opportunity after opportunity. Settle down, slow. What do they say? Slow down to speed up.
Right.
Have that conversation with your customer. Have the time to figure out ways to put more deals together.
Yeah, we in our store, we have become more educators than we have been become salespeople. We still have to know how to sell, but we just had a conversation this morning, so it's funny we're bringing up a lot of this. There are no magic closes. There's no secret bullets. There never has been. There never will be. Long term, we will win every single time. Maybe not short term. We don't close every customer, and we never will, and no store ever will. But we're in the long game. We want to sell them their car today. We want to sell their family members' cars. We want to refer their family and friends and their neighbors here. And look, a lot of that comes from being growing up in a small town. I grew up in a small stoplight town in the South with one convenience store, one grocery store, one gas station. Right, so everyone knew everybody, literally. Now, my dealership is 30 miles away, and we're in what is considered a huge city compared to where I grew up. So we're 500,000 people here in the immediate area, and a lot more than that in an hour and a half radius. But we still go to park with these people. We see them at the park with their kids. We go to church with these people. We see them at the mall. People still go to the mall. I don't know. But we see them when we're out and about, right? Because we're still
You're in the mall.
Yeah, everyone here still has a small town mentality. Is the point? So everyone talks. Social media and reviews are fantastic, and we use it to our advantage. I'm a huge advocate of those things. But what about the relationship? What about when we see them in public? That's totally different than a 5-star review when they're here in the store and they're in that what I call nirvana moment when there's nothing wrong. Can you look them in the eye and you can shake their hand and say, hey, I remember you, and how's your Tahoe doing, or whatever the car, insert variable here, right, that we sold you 2-3 weeks ago. Or they come up to me because, of course, they see me once or my staff once, and we see hundreds of customers, right, in any given month. But they say, oh, you guys sold me my car, and it's doing great. Or look, and we train on this as well. To me, one of the best compliments they can pay you. It's always good to hear the positive, but we also want to hear the negative. We don't want to run from our customers ever. We want to hear the bad parts because that's the only way we can get better and the only way we can grow and the only way we can fix it and keep the relationship. Relationships that don't have communication, they're never going to be long term ever, or they're going to be miserable, and we don't want either. The people that start like stores I consult, the number one reason the salespeople don't work the service lane or don't approach the service, forget about working it, just go near the service lane, is because they're afraid they're going to have a customer with a problem, right? Especially if you're on the used side of things. New cars are under warranty and everything's warm and fuzzy 99% of the time because they're going to fix everything because they're surveys. It's not like that in our world on the used car side, right? So they're just scared that they're going to run into that customer had a fuel pump that went out, but that's okay. They're going to let you know if they're angry, whether you go there or not, right? Or they're going to let other people know they're angry. So I would much rather them tell me as the owner or as the salesperson or as a manager or the janitor that represents my dealership. It doesn't matter because I'm just a part of the team. So we can try to resolve it, try to fix it, or at least try to educate and explain that, hey, I know you said you just bought this car, but you've put 2,000 miles on this car in the last 4 months, and there's nothing wrong with that, but these things are going to happen. And that's also another opportunity for us to build value in a service contract that maybe they didn't take advantage of the first time they were here. So,
amen. My gosh.
Yeah, there's always opportunity. There's always opportunity out there. So you got to look at it that, that unhappy customer is just an opportunity to make them happy.
Tracy, where have you been all my life? I mean, where have you been? We could have spent hours together.
Absolutely. You got it.
But I constantly preach about that. There's a couple of things in my career, in what I do, and when I'm in store and I talk to dealers, I talk about the service drive. I talk about getting in there. I talk about the opportunity to upsell customers on the drive and why that's so important. And, again, when that customer takes advantage, this is years back, for crying out loud, when I was selling cars even, right? And I learned earlier on, sell that customer, make sure that customer has a service contract, Becky, because the bottom line is, if in the event there's a repair, you don't want to own it. You don't want the customer to own it. You want to be able to make sure that that customer has reliable transportation, that they have that repair taken care of, that they don't have to worry about making a payment plus the repair at the same time. And it was always so important for me to make sure that that customer always took advantage of a service contract at time of sale. And certainly, again, I can't agree with you more how important it is. Let's revisit with that customer, because how many times does the customer say, no, I don't think I want to go ahead and take advantage of that service contract, but you know what? Here comes Endurance. Endurance is sending them flyers or some piece of mail about purchasing a service contract after sale. So let's be more proactive and get in front of that and be with that customer and keep that customer, again, in the ecosystem. So, gosh, I could go on this for like ever with you. So let's talk about your event coming up. And that is, I mean, from what I'm hearing, you got dealers signing up left and right on this event. So you've got educators. I'm so grateful that I'm able to participate. So for the dealers and viewers that are listening in, what would be some of the takeaways from attending this event?
Yeah, so the biggest takeaway and the hardest part for us, and we're in our 11th year of this event.
Wow.
By the way. So, but the most difficult thing for us, the biggest challenge is letting people know what a mastermind group meeting is, because it's not a conference, it's not a convention, even though we lump it into that category because people like to put things in boxes, and that's okay. So we've kind of gone along with that in the beginning, and it's okay. We're not a conference, but if you don't say that, then what are you, right? But the mastermind group meeting is an opportunity for dealers to come together and talk about the topics that they want to talk about. So when we get there, we'll have all the dealers in the room with all the educators that are also in the room. And we call our educators, when we promote it, we call them educators because people don't really know what our dealer advisory council is. But internally, we call them our dealer advisory council. So when the dealers are at these round tables with members of our dealer advisory council, and you have your area of expertise, and we have a sales trainer, we have a CRM person and a DMS person. And so we have different, one expert in different categories. So if a dealer says, look, my pain point is follow up with customers. I can't get my salespeople to do it. Then Troy, my co-moderator, we're only moderators. Our goal is to navigate the conversation and say, okay, well, we have we have LA over here, and he's a follow-up expert. LA, what do you have to say about that? And then the conversation blossoms, and LA says, well, and then he starts asking questions to the person from the dealership. And then another dealer says, well, I have that same problem, but here's another spin on it, and I have another set of issues. So that conversation in and of itself, that main pain point, that could be a 15-minute conversation that grows and adapts and maneuvers and changes. It could last an hour, hour and a half, until we feel as moderators that it's exhausted itself and it's just repeating, and no one's getting value at that point. So then we're like, okay, let's switch. We're going to be here all day on this, and we've kind of exhausted this topic. So let's go to another pain point. So that's the way the mastermind group meeting works. We'll do those mastermind sessions for about 90-minute intervals, give or take. And then we'll stop and bring in a special guest educator, so we can just kind of etch a sketch our brains for a minute, because it's painful is probably not the right. It's uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is the right word, because growth is very uncomfortable, right? And we don't like to be uncomfortable as human beings. It's just in our DNA for the most part. So we let them reset. The educators can come up, and we've got different topics, and they'll have their spot, and we go right back into the mastermind session. So it's intense, it's uncomfortable, and it's for that 1% of people that work at dealerships, not just for dealers, from everyone from service to dealer principals. And we have people from BDC, the BDC salespeople, we have service personnel office, it doesn't matter, and some F&I folks here as well. And we want them to learn and to grow, and that 1% that is hungry, and they're sponges, and they want to be uncomfortable and get out of their comfort zone. That's what this event's for. And that's why we would love this to be 1,500 people, 2,000 people in a big, but I don't feel there's that many people overall that want to be that uncomfortable and be that intense and be that calculated. And part of me thinks, well, that's kind of sad. The other part of me is like, not really, because it's like a pro sports team. If everyone was that Super Bowl team caliber, with those certain amount of players, which is very select few, amount of players, then it'd be a different space in automotive, obviously, but everyone's not like that. So you need those champions. You need that 1% that want to come to events like this. And look, I'm an advocate of conferences and conventions in traditional sense. But I'll never forget, 13 years ago, I was sitting in a conference. I went to the West Coast. I spent thousands of dollars. I took time away from my business, my family, my church, everything I was doing in the community. And I was there to learn. And 2 hours in, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is all one big sales pitch. And we are salespeople by nature, so I don't have anything against it. If there's information I can take back from the store, I'm okay with it, even if it's well disguised sales pitch, right? But I needed something else. And it's the proverbial, there's got to be a better way. And that's where this conference and this event came from, the mastermind group meeting, because I'm like, man, I want to talk about what I want. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to hear about this. I want to talk about, as a dealer, what I want to talk about. So the mastermind group meeting was, I'd been to a real estate marketing group meeting, because I like to bring things from outside of my industry into our industry, right? Because they have different ideas than we have, right? Or they implement them differently. Yeah. Realtors, for long before automotive started, they were brilliant self-branders, because they had no choice. Now, automotive has come in the sales realm. We've come a really long way, but I'm sure you'll remember, 20 years ago, there was none of that in our space. Nobody was talking about branding yourself, or very few people anyway. We're talking about branding themselves as salespeople outside their little pocket in their store. But now I know it's easier now, but realtors have been putting their faces on signs in yards for, forever, right? And they marketed themselves. So I was going to real estate conferences, and they had a mastermind group meeting. And I said, I think I can borrow a lot of this and bring it back to automotive. And that's what we've done. So it'll be intense. It'll be unique. It'll be exciting. It'll be exhausting. At the end of the day, most of the people that show up, it used to be 2.5 days, by the way. And by the second day, people were very lethargic by the end of the second day. And it wasn't because they weren't learning. It was the exact opposite. There was so much information, and you always had to be on, because if you remember when you were in school, you had teachers that always called on members of the class, right? And it was interactive. You always had you were like this in that class. Right?
Always be on.
You didn't know. And it was mentally exhausting because you were on for that 45 minutes or hour, ever how long the class was. Then you had the teachers who just talked, and those were the classes that you could take naps in. and unfortunately, that's a lot of conferences and conventions today. They're just talking heads, and we did not want to be a bunch of talking heads, and that's not what we are.
Well, I got to tell you, like with workshops that I've had throughout the country and my in dealership training, it really is all about the interaction.
Absolutely.
It's like, I want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from me. I already know what I'm going to say. I got to know what what's in it for you, right? Because if we don't understand what you're thinking, I can't help you. I can't help to overcome whatever fear factor that you may have with regard to whatever that we're talking about, right? It's got to be about you. It's got to be what you're thinking, and then combined effort, let's come to a conclusion. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. I've seen more speakers just rattle on, and it's all about them instead of the individual that's attending the session, right? To really try to move their thinking, or ideas, strategies, and open up their minds to it.
You're right. Our philosophy is that there's someone in the room that's really good at or an expert at what you're really bad at and need help with. And that's the whole idea with the mastermind. So we're excited. We partnered with the CIADA. So we're a one-day event, the mastermind. So you can come in. It's beachfront too, by the way. The property is amazing. It's right on the beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So you can come in the night before, be ready to go at 8 a.m. The next morning. We'll go all day, and it's intense. Then you can head right back out because there's an airport right there in Myrtle Beach. If you have to fly in, or if you have the luxury of driving in and saving a little money, that's good too. Or you can stay an extra couple of days and make it a long beach trip, or you can stay for the CIADA convention. And you do not have to be. This is one thing we've really had an opportunity to overcome in the past few years since we partnered with them. They've been great partners, but you do not have to be members of the CIADA, which is the Carolinas Independent Auto Dealers Association, to attend our event or their event for that matter. You can attend the events either way. And our event is not state specific or used car dealer specific. Our event is, we have new car dealers, used car dealers, and people travel from all over the country to be at our event. The state association event is a lot of state specific stuff, and just being totally transparent, but there's still some good information and some good networking that happens. And a lot of our vendors and educators and stay after, and they're there. So it's definitely not a waste of time regardless. But if you want to do the one day, one and done, that's not a bad way to do it, and spend an extra day at the beach.
So I'm excited. So one of the things too, Tracy, is that, my years of automotive retail experience and working specifically helping dealers to mastermind, if you will, maximize their profits in F&I. And I have helped. I mean, we talked about earlier about my day back in AutoNation when, we helped to implement venue selling for the first time in these dealerships across the country. And every naysayer in the world said, Becky, go back in the box. That is not going to work. Venue selling is just not going to work. It's not going to happen. But we proved them wrong. And we showed that we helped to revolutionize the way F&I was going to get done, pure and simple. I mean, people today, trainers today, are still utilizing our content that we implemented years back. And then later, I founded my company on those same best practices and helping dealers to understand the benefit behind it. It seemed like a simple concept, piece of paper, present your products 100% of the products 100% of the time. And it was cool, but yet it was different. It was different. Dealers had to pivot their thinking about how can this work when I was banging my head up against the wall and trying to get customers to buy products. So this is just so much easier and better. So today, with me kind of changing a little bit, this is a little bit different for me. I'm outside my comfort zone. I've been in retail all my life, Tracy, all my life. And now I'm stepping into something a little bit different with Agora. Agora to me, however, is really helping dealers to significantly impact that F&I profit. But it's going to require dealers to pivot their thinking on what that's all about. Now, individuals like yourself, Tracy, who you like, for example, when you talk to me about that, the Supreme Lease program, you pivoted. You took it. You took that and you went with it, and it made sense. It now makes sense, and that's what you do. That's the same here with Agora. Agora is going to take time for a dealer to understand what's the cost of sale and how to apply that properly.
Right.
But it goes back to, again, the conversation that we had, that you have to slow down the speed up. You have to be able to put these processes in place to be able to determine the best opportunity for your customers to be able to significantly impact that performance. So I'm excited about the opportunity to talk a little bit about that when I get to the event, but also to be surrounded by folks like yourself who certainly understand that you have to be flexible, that if you're not, if you're complacent, you're going to let the competitor eat your lunch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. And I feel like there are tools and technologies that if we can embrace just a little bit, can make the biggest difference in what we do. So I am excited about hearing new ideas and strategies from your educators as well, and what we need to do to, get we can all get outside of our comfort zone if in fact it helps us to grow. So the other thing, what is your takeaway as far as strategic advice? How do you share your insights on how you see the industry going today? Lenders are tightening up. There are challenges. There's, we have the profit margins are shrinking, interest rates are climbing, and service and parts and labor and that sort of stuff. And you got EVs that are sitting on the lot. We have more dealers are paying more interest on floor plans. So if you wouldn't mind, share your insights on how should they be looking at that to impact profits during this period of time, during these challenging times?
Yeah. Well, the reality of it is there have been challenges since the first year I got in the car business, right? There will always be challenges. The challenges change or they will shift. Maybe they won't completely change, but they'll shift. I still hear stories about when rates were double what they are now. We're complaining about the rates. It's all perspective, right? We got used to, like on our end, we got used to those 3 to 4% interest rates for some customers. And now they're, the prime rates yesterday. I think we got the lowest we got was 7.5%, 8% for a credit union customer. But, then my dad's generation remembers, the 17, 18% was the prime rate. So, and I think since day one, my dad was wholesale minded, right? I'm a retailer. I love people. I like the process of retailing customers and educating customers. My dad liked the wholesale side of the business. So we meshed very well when we were working side by side because we took care of two different parts of the business. But even then, he would talk about how the cars are so expensive. I don't see how we're buying any cars because they're making any money because cars are bringing, how much they're bringing in typical jargon from the industry. And I'm hearing that. I just heard it this morning from one of my buyers. That to us as dealers, cars are always too expensive. Interest rates are always too high. Customers never have enough money down. Payments are going to be more than that. We can never be happy about all that stuff, or we can accept it because we can't change it. I can't change interest rates. You can't change interest rates. We have to get better at what we're doing. So conferences, conventions, events, education in general will help us get better with helping our customers, educating our customers, which we've been doing for forever now. It seems like for long-term strategies and budget planning can go a long ways. So we're that $350 a month payment, and before that was a $250 a month payment for our customers. we didn't need to educate as much. Well, now we may need to take an extra 10 to 15 minutes and teach them how maintenance today on your car, it costs, and nobody likes to do it, but it can keep their car from breaking and having major problems long term. And dealers still horrible with that, and I'll put majority of them into that box, right? We get blindsided because we assume that customers know that they're supposed to maintain their cars, because we know they're supposed to maintain their cars. The average customer has no idea to do anything other than oil change or to take the car to service when there's a light on or when it breaks, period. So, and that sounds like, well, that sounds common sense to us. Well, of course it does, because we're in the business. We're supposed to know these things. Our customers don't know these things. But how does that relate to higher car payments? Well, it's everything, right? Because if that payment's $550, $600 a month for an Impala that was $450 5 years ago, that customer may have an extra $200 or $300 a month if their car breaks or something happens to it. Now they don't. So maintenance as they go along, which a maintenance plan, financing or buying that up front, or a service contract, buying or financing that up front, whatever that options that we present them, 100% of the customers, 100% of the time, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's just like asking for referrals. That's something we talk about daily. We should ask for referrals from their friends and family, 100% of the customers, 100% of the time. And if we don't, then we're failing ourselves and we're failing them, because everybody drives a car and they all need to know somebody that can help them buy a car when the time comes. It's not about right now. It's, once again, we're in the long game. So I know that's a lot, but it's really under the same umbrella. This business changes, but it doesn't. Some of these things are the same things we've been hearing for 30, 40, 50 years. They're just a different color lipstick. We just have to learn to adapt. And subprime down payment a lot of times equals our profit. During COVID, actually most of the time it equals additional profit, right? And it's even more so now that lenders are cutting back and cars are more expensive, and insert all the different variables that we could talk about over the next 3 days if we had the time. So what processes do we have in place as dealers to actually build value and more money down, to ask the customer for more money down, and how can they get more money down? And I don't think there's any processes in place. I know the dealers that call me, they're like, we're struggling. I can watch them work 3 deals, and I'm talking about the salesperson all the way to the desk, and there's zero processes. The meet and greet and the write-up's not a process. It's not a process. So
God, we could certainly hang out. I'm telling you, it just drives me crazy. And I get it. I mean, I get it. We all end up taking shortcuts. And COVID really helped with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And helping us to take shortcuts or forget our skill set completely. But just boggles my mind. And you're right. It's like we're not making as much profit, as we used to, and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's changing marketplaces, but they're also changing processes. And, when's the last time you looked at your desk and then you realize you're going out of pencil with no money down? I'm like, what are we doing? What happened to the basics? I mean, we used to ask for money down like all the time? So I don't know. And
I'll give you a good example in our store. During tax time in our store, right? That's a big time for the subprime industry and car business in general, but in subprime down to lease here, pay here, there's always a bump during tax time. Well, we joked internally from the leadership team that during tax time, all your salespeople would forget how to sell a car, because it was a lot easier, because customers would walk in and say, hey, I've got $4,500 down. What can you put me in? Right? Or I've got $4,500 down and I'm looking for a Tahoe or whatever. It doesn't matter. The outcome's the same. Okay, great. If they say they got 45, they probably got 65 back on their taxes, right? So they're holding back 2 or 3. The variable doesn't matter, and it's easy. So they forget the entire process. So COVID was an extended tax season. So literally, majority of car dealers forgot every process they had, and they forgot how to actually sell cars. And I think that extends from the front of the house to the back of the house in F&I. It was so easy that they forgot how, and now they're blaming market conditions. And there are some challenging market conditions. I'm not saying there's not, because there are, but there's always been that. We need to re-examine our processes, and that needs to be something that we do as fast as the marketplace is now. I don't know that we don't re-examine those monthly and talk to our leadership team and make sure the leadership team is giving the right message to our salespeople who are taking it right back to our customers. They all have to be on the same page. Our business is 3 Ps. It always has been. I think it always will be. People, processes, products.
Amen.
People, processes, products. All the other stuff is just minutia. Those 3 things, you can be successful at a dealership with those 3 things, period.
So my old boss once told me, he says, let me tell you something, Becky, a dealer that has a bad process, a bad one, is going to be far better and make far better than a dealer with no process and that flies off the seat of their pants. And I think that that's important, that dealers need to reevaluate their expectations and hold their people accountable to those expectations.
Key.
And
absolutely.
you got to inspect what you expect, right?
Yeah. Constantly and consistently. You're right.
And it's still a fun business. Don't get me wrong. But you know
yes.
what? At the end of the day, why do we challenge? Why do we struggle through this? When in fact, if we know that we put these basics in place, these fundamentals in place, we get the results that we want. You know, I can tell you how many times, and I talk about the interview, getting out there, meeting customers. It's not to be robotic. It's to get real. It's to be able to validate and just to get an understanding of the customer needs and wants, right? To be able to bridge that gap, to build the rapport. I think that's so important. You know, and oftentimes growing up too, that was a time for me to be able to validate the transaction. Also, even to determine to get the story, because sometimes at the desk, I never could take the desk word for it. There's always something more there. There's always something more there. Let me find out better ways to put that deal together, right? And if I can do that, that's what it's all about. It's
always a better way, always a different way. Right.
Amen. I mean, we're so much on point here, Tracy.
I know, right?
What the heck? So, again, guys, I am so much looking forward to attending this event August 1st through the 4th. And it is by far, I bet it's going to be one of the best events that I've had the pleasure of participating and just being able to attend with some of the some talented folks. So I'm super excited about it and super excited about having the opportunity to, Tracy, to meet with you in person, get to know some of the people that you know, Troy. I know of him. I don't believe that I personally have met him, but you've got some fantastic speakers also. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys, dealers, thinking about dealers, thinking about attending, you got to attend. Use the use the promo code Dealer Profit. Come as Agora's guest. Come as my guest. And if you have additional questions on Agora and what it can do for your business, you know, I'd love to be able to address any of those questions. Meet up with you while I'm there, and it's gonna be a fantastic. I am so glad that we were able to make this happen. And Tracy, I know how busy you are. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate Agora being a part of what we're doing, because we really believe that not just this event, but events in general, educational events, and the dealers and dealership staff that attend, they're going to be the ones that take us into the future without sounding too corny or cliched, because we have to get better. We have big corporations coming in, and I'm speaking from an independent dealer now, and they're knocking on our door and say, look, you're not making money anyway, and those are their words. And I'm a firm believer that we can be as competitive as they are. I believe we can still dominate this marketplace and serving the customers and the communities and creating a great workplace as well. So we're just here to educate, and that's what this event's about. So if you're fortunate enough where you can drive in for the day, just drive in for the day. It's going to be free. We'll even feed you and you'll go back to your store and you can take some money making ideas back and meet some great people. It really is stacked with people who want to give back. We vet our educators and our vendors and our sponsors. We turn away as many as we actually say yes to. Which, if you've ever been a part of an event, that's not easy to do because they pay. They pay the way. They pay for everything we do there, right? And we're not there to make money. We're there to give back to the dealer community because we all have other jobs. We're not event planners. We're just there to give back to the, as my friend Troy says, this is the way I've paid every bill in my adult life, automotive, and it's been a blessing, and we just want to give back now.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's everything for me as well. And so anytime that I can give back to the industry, that makes me, that's my purpose, right? That makes my day.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see and feel, right?
Yeah. But unfairadvantagemastermind.com, unfairadvantagemastermind.com, and the dealer profit promo code gets you into
dealer
free.
Profit
And that's thanks to Agora. So thank you very much.
And I'll make sure that it gets out there as well, the registration and also our promo code, because I want dealers to sign up that this is the time to do it.
Yes.
Make it happen. Be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's nothing wrong with fun, and there's nothing wrong with having and learning at the same time. So I'm really super excited. Thank you again, Tracy, for the opportunity to be on this podcast with me today. I certainly appreciated your time and valuable insights.
Thank you. I'll see you soon in a few weeks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.